time of exactly where you are, like longitude, latitude on the planet. And it will keep that running score of your vitamin D, because vitamin D, we literally need to keep sufficient. We're not, when we do, we have like 3,000, and more genes that are regulating and expressing themselves properly. And we need, when we slip below the D line, that's when we can catch a cold, catch a virus. The bones, cavities can develop. It's just like so connected to everything. And it's a heart and soul of our immune system. But back to the sun, you're not going to get any vitamin D in those morning hours, but it's very carefree. You don't have to think about the UV yet. So in those morning hours, so when you get the D-Minder app, you'll know when the UV is coming in. So like right now, right here in Ontario, it's probably not till about 10-ish. And this summer, it might be like 8:30. So you've got this beautiful window, and that's going to activate things. So even if you're like, you can be, I love gazing at the sun because it's really good for the eyesight. Then you can start moving around. I mean, if you're just walking and it's not sunny, you're still getting that illumination of the light, and you're still getting like the infrared. And even with it just sort of heating up your shirt or whatever, you're getting that infrared. And the red light spectrum, that's in the morning, that's before the UV. So if we think about the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv, the red to the violet colors, the red's always there. That's that sort of baseline color. And then the violet is the top color. And that's why it's not always there. That's why it leaves our, like Canada, we don't get it for 3 months.
Exactly.
And, and that's why it's coming back. So the UV is the violet ray. And then there's there's the UVA, UVB. And so that's a different story when we're working with the violet rays, but they're still good and we still want them. So that morning you're going to activate hormones, amino acids. I mean, we are a body electric. We're not just biochemical.
So the red light is giving you mitochondrial activation.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we use the red light. Or if you can't get outside or whatever, that's a great time to do red light therapy. And that's what I love with a lot of these sort of like, if we want to use the word biohacking tools, is because most of them, or the ones that I like playing with, they're concentrating the elements, whether it's like hydrogen or like ozone, oxygen, air, compressed air, pulse electrical frequencies, red light as a therapy. So these are great tools that we can use to concentrate the elements. Now for working with the sun, because you do want the vitamin D, and the sun connecting with our skin creates a form of vitamin D that's water soluble and amazing for our blood and antimicrobial peptides and the immune system and so many things. I think of it as like this inner lubrication, because it creates a very healthy cholesterol sulfate that we need, we need for our sex hormones, we need for everything.
That's why that's the effect of the vitamin D.
Yes, and that's why we want it. And
yes,
so you want to go out. That's like if you look at sort of the power window, that's when you can go outside for a shorter amount of time and get so if I go out at like 11 to 12, I may have to go longer than sort of 12 till 1, because it's going to be higher D, so I can get I can use my time better. And depending who how your skin's doing, you got to work your way up to it. Start slowly, start in the spring. Get a few minutes every day and start building up that base layer. And when you have a melanated skin with a tan, that's a sign too that you've got D, but you're actually going to use the D-Minder to calculate it so you know specifically when you have it.
It's so very precise. That's amazing.
Very precise, yeah. And UV we need. It's not, our skin was designed to receive the sun's rays, of course, right? Yeah. Of course. So when we use something like a sunscreen, forget all the toxins and the, liver disruptor, endocrine disruptors and all that stuff. That's bad enough. But what sunscreen does is it separates UVB from UVA. So then we're like putting on the sunscreen, and now we're sitting in the sun, and now we're just getting UVA on its own without its ultraviolet partner. And UVA on its own is sun damaging, because it's not you're not getting the sort of the whole thing. And so, the use of sunscreen, when we look at Cochrane reviews of studies, which collate studies, we're seeing, in short, I write about it more if you want the stats, it's in my book, but that through the use of sunscreen, more freckles, more moles, more skin cancer. And we're not getting the UVB, which is the degenerating. So we're going through all of that, just getting the skin damaging A and not the D that creates the vitamin D. Also, what are we engaging with the sun with, right? Because it's obviously everything is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're tanning, when we're basking in the sun, we're having a relationship with those rays. So did you just like drink Coca-Cola, put chemicals on your body, and then you're baking that in? Or, are you drinking water, or like water filled with chlorophyll, or like pigmented rich things, like in your diet? And then, putting natural things on your body like olive oil, or you don't need anything in the sun per se. Obviously, there's going to be a limit. But and something like olive oil could like extend your time in the sun, 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour if you're like a deep Mediterranean dude or something like that. So you really got to know your skin, and you got to build it up. And the D-Minder app even has like, the Fitzpatrick skin tone thing. There's sort of 5 skin tones, and it takes that into consideration with the longitude and latitude of where you're at. So it's a really handy app, and it's really good because we do kind of need to monitor the D on a constant level. And you don't want to go to the doctor, and because it's also like, you don't want to even go once a year, because you kind of you just need to keep it optimal.
That's so interesting. I love your sort of scientific approach, and the precision of your research is absolutely amazing. Do you ascribe some esoteric qualities to the bathing in the sun, like the photonic rays are important to humanity in general? What is your take on that?
I feel like in my brain, at least, I'm always, or if you read Renegade Beauty, I feel like you will get a sense of like, I love to weave in sort of the more philosophical quantum physics or like poetic aspect of life with the science,
It's wonderful. Wonderful bringing together both of them.
Yeah. And I feel like we've got to undo, if it's a system that was sort of created in modernity, like wearing sunscreen, then we need the tools of that system to dismantle it.
Just in the importance of nature, I feel more than ever, as you walk out into nature, you get the benefit of being in present moment, and sort of all the screens and things, I feel like they take you really into this artificial place, whereas nature, being in the sun, can sort of snap you back into who you are. What's your take on that?
Oh yeah. That's it, right? It keeps everything real to the feel. I always feel that, like, even no matter what you think of the weather, you step outside, it's just real life. Like, you know what I mean? And maybe that it's like same with the city, because obviously there's weather too. So I feel like that's the thing that kind of brings it all together, to just really always keeps you in that present moment. But there's so many ways. Because we are focused on the material, obviously, and the physicality of our bodies, and like, what are we eating, and all that is obviously important. We are biochemical beings, but we're also beings that have been created to, like, we're vibing on everything in our environment. Everything is information, right? So if we're in our home with our iPhone, obviously there's a whole bunch of information, but with the elements, that's the information that our bodies are also used to and thrive upon. Like, we literally, our bodies weren't made in a vacuum. They were made to be in relationship with those elements. We need the earth and the air and the water and the sun to live and thrive and survive. And I think what's fun, we are in these times. We're not building our shelter, finding our water, generally speaking, right? Most of humanity has kind of got plumbing right now. And so the fun thing is we can engage with the elements in a new way. We don't, because we're not, we don't have to survive them.
I love that concept of information. You have a certain amount of information you get from your phone, but actually when you're out in nature, you can connect yourself to cosmic consciousness. You're getting access to the infinite amount of information, which we often don't think about.
But that is it. That's the stream to hook up to, right? And that's what I call that cosmoetics.
Cosmoetics. I love it. I absolutely love it. What concerns do you have? Karen, I want you to siphon in your question in just a moment, but I know you're probably thinking the same thing. What concerns do you have about what sprayings in the sky may have done to our access to vitamin D from the sun?
Well, luckily, I think we're still going to get all the vitamin D, but I know, can people just stay away from the skies and the sun right now? And no, we don't want to blot out the sun.
Of course. But is that affecting people's ability to get vitamin D in your assessment? Or should we say, gosh, we can only do so much. Let's at least get out in the sun as much as we're able to obtain.
Definitely do that. And, I haven't gone into like pollutions and stuff, but for sure it's filtering. Right. But you've got other issues at that point besides getting vitamin D. I mean, you've got lung issues and everything. So I haven't done a deep dive, but definitely, I mean, like New York City and stuff, you're still going to get vitamin D. It's not
Excellent.
that bad, you know.
Karen,
I'm
please. Yeah.
wondering, can you expand a little bit upon what was the actual foundation or the inspiration you had of the two different books? I've always been
sure.
into the holistic dentistry, and just simply because I had a lot of mercury fillings and periodontal, and recently did a PFR, and I used our Genius Biofeedback with some of the new higher tech to actually use the frequencies when we did the implants with the PFR, because there's so much stuff I find that's going on with whether it's 5G, 6G, or talking with Tony Pantalleresco there in Windsor, Ontario is quite the trip.
Whoa.
I don't know if you know him, but
I don't.
for a herbologist, very amazing to get to. But what's happening is we're seeing, and I am too, whether the eyes are drying out or I'm seeing more periodontal, and I've been using different things, you know, just not only the biofeedback, but I've always maintained that holistic biological dentistry. So can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration, what you see people could do, or, you know, your 8 steps of, you know, getting to total health biologically?
Well, at first, I mean, I thought, I mean, people would say, oh, write a book or whatever, but I always thought, oh, don't we have that? We have a lot of books. But then I started really like, I was talking a lot about the dental stuff, and I felt like, you know, I was really just so much information was like, you know, needed to be given out all the time. And I was talking on a lot, and I was like, I've got to bring it together for a book. And I was just like, it was like 2009. And, you know, it was a lot different to self-publish then. It was like a whole new kind of era. And I was just like, I'm just going to do that because I just got to get the information out. And people be like, don't, or you won't get published or whatever. I was like, I don't care, because
Good for you.
I just need somebody to give, you know, people something. But what was interesting is the success of that self-published book, which I made, just on a funny side note, I think I generated more income from it in those first 3 years when I self-published than ever since being published, because it's such a smaller percentage. But now it's in 5 languages and around the world, which is a better, like a good balance. So I'm also just saying, like, self-publish, it's a great thing to do and can be a good source of income, right? But the success of that actually caught the publisher's attention. And actually self-publishing is what got it published. And that's the holistic dental, the version you have right there. So that was just almost like I had to create that one to sort of as a sense of relief. You know, I've got to get this information out. And then they wanted a beauty book. It was sort of delayed because we had a huge fire in 2013.
I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, but I got it, and it was great because, you know, I just knew more but I really feel like that felt really like Renegade Beauty is, I feel like everything sort of from 1990 to that moment. I think it was
Renegade Beauty is really comprehensive.
Yeah. And I just,
your download of everything.
Yeah. I wanted to just distill it all. And even though it's a thicker book, it's still like, you know, as tight as I can get it in a way, but giving everything I can. So that was just so fun. And it's actually the fun part of writing a book is like, it's like almost like bringing order to information.
Yes.
So it's almost like a relief, like, I get that can go out.
You're giving it to others, but you've almost organized it within yourself, which is amazing. I have to ask
there's a sun one coming. It'll still be like, it's probably going to be a year or two, but there's a whole sun book.
I love it.
You have another one in the making. You must have another one in the making.
Yeah, it's everybody loves the sunshine.
But I want to ask you something that's really important, that was such an aha moment in that book, in your holistic dentistry book, which is about when the hypothalamus or something in the brain changes, it changes the charge on the teeth. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah. So one thing that I found, I'm doing a deep dive because I'm doing my dental research, right? And there's not a lot back then, which is also why I wanted to write it, because even in my journey of understanding healing my body when I was in my early 20s and stuff, and I don't mean healing on any big level, just like, how do we function with our body? What do we do if we have a cold or a headache? Like, besides take Pepto-Bismol and aspirin, there must be another way. So I found a lot, but the teeth was always this big gap, right? And then in my 20s, just being no longer on my parents' dental program, you're just reckoned with some things. You're like, okay. So I found that there was a big gap in that, just what does a person do on a daily basis? Like, forget the big dental moment that's like coming once or twice a year. Like, what are we doing every day at home? So I went far and wide with my research, and there was one of my favorite dentists, Dr. Hal Huggins, had a very rare book on kids. It was called Why Raise Ugly Kids, he's very funny. And there's one deep dental chapter, and there was one this page that he said he met Dr. Ralph Steinem, and then all of his dental knowledge just like went away like a sandcastle on a beach. And it was such a key moment, because what I look for when I'm researching or I'm thinking about a part of the body is like, let's stop out of our whatever we say in the past like 100 years on how we're going to care for something, step back and get out of the way, and almost like, how is the body designed? I mean, we're such a brilliant design, I mean, the whole, like everything on the planet, obviously, like every insect, flower thing is just crazy, right? How it's all interconnected and functioning. So I was like, well, we're not born with a toothbrush in our hand. So like, what's the system in the body that's kind of helping to keep the teeth clean? Because this, Listerine is new. Toothbrushes are kind of new.
It's such an important question. Like, we forget to ask the question, what did people do before they were doing this? Like, that's brilliant in a way. Yeah.
And this moment in that book really like stunning to me. And so this is the thing that blew Hal Huggins, is there's a dentinial lymphatic system.
Amazing.
There's a lymph system in our teeth, which is bringing nutrients and that kind of stuff. So that was amazing. And so that I call the invisible toothbrush, because that lymphatic system is buffering against cavities, is cleaning the internal part of the teeth. Right. So what happens is when we chew and we're eating those substrates, hopefully we've got nutrients in that food, is signaling to the hypothalamus, because it's funny, I feel like everything goes back to the hypothalamus, right? It all just sort of the traffic director. Which sending like chemical messages for things to function. And then we start digesting the food, and it's interacting with the parotid gland right there by the jaw that talks to the hypothalamus. And then that nutritive blood goes up toward back, into the digestive system and back up to the mouth. And then our teeth are like trees with roots kind of thing. So they're the roots of the teeth. They draw up the nutrients, like a tree draws up the nutrients from the soil and creates a sap. And so our teeth are drawing that upwards and inwards in this centrifugal spiral. And then in the pulp chamber, that blood gets fenestrated into this dentinial lymphatic clear liquid that the odontoblasts, which are like little bone pistons, and they push out the lymphatic fluid onto the surface of the teeth, where this like microscopic sweat coalesces with the saliva to protect against the teeth, to clean the teeth. It's also clean the internal of the teeth. So when we're stressed, not eating like, nutrient proper food, or using Listerine, or on the phone all day with the parotid gland right there, like so many things, or like pregnancy times or puberty times when there's just a lot of stress in the body, that system, the flow can stagnate. And then we're not getting that buffering and the cleaning. Or if that continues, the system will reverse.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then the tooth becomes like a straw, drawing in, sucking in from the mouth, rather than this, it's reversing. And then we're drawing into the tooth bacteria, virus from the mouth environment.
Do you think that might be, on a current day, one of the main reasons why people have the multitude of issues that they have with their teeth?
I think it's because we don't know that, or like dentists generally don't know that. I mean, obviously the ones that know, they know. But so that's like, and also dentistry the modern was sort of like formed that somehow the mouth's a bit separate from the rest of the body. Amazing. Like we'll just put mercury fillings like inches from your brain. So it just connects, and it connects not just like physically, but like chemically and, systemically. It's fully connected. And so you can start to understand the terrain of the body and the teeth, and also what it needs, which it really needs that D3 for your bones. And you got to do it with the K2 for the supplement, so we need that. We need like phosphorus and magnesium. We need those minerals to keep that system flowing. So brushing is like, yes. And I have a lot to say about that, but we've got to get the foundation right so that the systems in the body are taken care of. Right. So we're activating it.
How would you approach knowing that you like successfully switching that system back? Would it be yoga postures? Would it be meditation? Would it be stress reduction? How would you know that you've set that correct again?
Well, stress is hard because like it could be 1,000, right? 1,000 ways it's coming in.
Yep.
But so there's that, which is going to kind of be personal, but for sure the things I've said about nutrients right away, like you've got to, like, maybe you need 10,000 IU of vitamin D for a bit. Maybe you need to go to your naturopath or doctor, or figure it out on your own and inject like 50,000 IU, get going, and then taper down to a 10,000. But you've got to get the D up. You've got to get the basic nutrients in, so that, because those are chemical messengers that will chemically help the system. I mean, biochemically help the system. And of course, I mean, natural chemicals, the body chemicals, the biochemicals. So that's what I would do right away. And then, for some, taking on a yoga class might be more stressful because they don't have time, or they don't have whatever. So we got to figure that part out.
That's interesting.
Get the nutrients going. And then the microbiome, start rinsing
the gut, the microbiome of your mouth per se. And how much are these things related? How much is the lymphatic health of your whole body related to the lymphatic health of your mouth? How related is the microbiome of your gut related to the microbiome of your mouth?
That's a good lymphatic question. I mean, they're related, but I don't know sort of statistically. And then we've also got the lymphatic system, which is the lymphatic system of the brain. I don't think a sluggish lymph system necessarily means that it's sluggish with the teeth per se. You know what I mean? But you want to get those nutrient chemical messengers up. But the microbiome for sure is like, so especially, I mean, it's all connected because we've got a skin microbiome, you've got an ear, nose, throat microbiome, a yoni microbiome, a colon microbiome. And that's all, the colon microbiome is related to your mouth microbiome, but for sure the mouth and the guts are like very, very inextricably bound. It could be bad breath, could be coming up. Well, it's like a constipation issue. Basically, it's deeper than the mouth, or you've got stuff going in the mouth that are going to affect the gut. So, both
those are
ways.
those are deeply connected.
Can you talk
how
a little
important
bit?
is Carol, I want to bring you back in here, but how important is the chewing mechanism, and what would be the ideal things that people should be chewing on a regular basis?
Well, I think chewing is key, but I'm sure I eat really fast. So it's not like it's essential, but we got to make sure we're like actually even exercising our jaws.
Exactly.
Because, maybe we're eating smoothies or whatever. So there are the little silicone things you can kind of chew. And if you can combine that with something like a PMF machine and doing it at the same time, you can get some jaw and even really help the bones in that area, which is important.
Are you saying like getting a PEMF where they have like a little accessory and putting it around?
Yeah, well, there's the PMFs that can go around the neck and stuff. And then there's ones that you can just full body lie on. And if you're doing something engaging with the muscles at the same time, you're really going to amplify that. And there's some that, they even have mouth or face pads and stuff, some of the bigger systems. Yeah,
that's what I've seen. Remember Victoria Butenko, she had her jaw like
that. I find that one's a bit big for me. Like,
I don't know what happened to it. Do they have smaller ones like that?
Yeah.
And should you recommend that people use them?
It's Amazon or eBay. Sorry for those, but like you just pop in like silicone chewing thing. And then you like, I don't know brands, but I don't think you have to get the jaws or sizer per se. I think it's a bit big because you just like, it works, but you just, sometimes it's just like, you don't need that big of a thing.
Yeah. I think there's a whole Tao of the chewing activates different things, helps with the structure, even helps with sleep apnea or snoring and things like that.
Sleep apnea could be just a D issue as well.
Everything for you comes back to, I can see why you're going to publish a book about the sun, because that has been such a download for you about the sun and vitamin D. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And I mean, luckily, there's two ways, because again, we're not getting the D in the diets like we used to either, but you really need that two-way thing. There's a great dentist doctor named Dr. Gould, maybe Jay. He's done great research on the vitamin D and the jaws and stuff, and he's the dentist.
I was wondering, one of the things, Nadine, you were talking about is the bioelectrical and the meridian system, and studying Dr. Hal Huggins, but also Dr. Jerry Tennant, because I have all his. One of the things that was just sort of a real deep experience for me is when I had over 10 mercury fillings. And when I was a biological dentist, Dr. Ed Mahan in Saskatoon, what happened is, when I went and took one half out, which was very interesting, I actually started shaking. I could feel the whole bioelectrical coming up the meridian. I actually started shaking, tremoring. and I could feel it like fingers coming up into the head, which
Yeah,
was
it
interesting.
does create current. Now, when you're removing mercury, I don't remember the order, but you have to actually kind of go, I can't remember, but you have to do it in the right order, left to right,
Yeah.
because there are currents being created.
That's correct. And what happened, which was very interesting, because it was an internal thing that I noticed on the right side.
Yeah.
And then when we did it on the left side, it was an external. I could feel it in the
Oh,
field. So I
right.
wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I sat there and I was shaking and I said, I was like, is this like an oral orgasm or something? Like, I don't, he's laughing at me, like, because he's been he's a naturopath
He's been
doctor,
around.
biological. Yeah. And what he said is, he goes, welcome back. I said, I think I said, I have been brain dead then, obviously, since I was probably 12 or 13 when they'd put all the mercury fillings in. Now, one of the other things that's kind of interesting here is you talked about the PMF, and I'm not sure you're aware, but in doing the Genius Biofeedback, we have a new portable one here. I just wanted to show you. This is my care bed, that way, because I've been a biofeedback and quantum instructor for decades now.
Wow.
Doing integrative medical centers, initially in Saskatoon and on the road, like frontline nursing better.
Right
but
on.
the new PMFs that we have that actually can go apart on that go to the jaw.
Oh, great.
The meridians. And
my
then
God.
I just did someone just to see what would happen. And we put it on a metal thing, because we've got a Genius, but also an Odyssey kind of radionic device that I'd like to share with you later and have a private.
Yeah.
But what happens here is that you can put this on, like for the dental. And
great.
doing one of the girls the other day, she had actually metals, and not only were things sticking to her, I'll say from here, from what.
Yeah.
But it was a PCR thing. So, because I normally don't take on those type of clients, but we actually ran it, and she could actually feel it. And it was actually coming in contact with the metallics or the graphinated areas. So I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. And I just wanted to give a shout out. I see Helen Vong's in here, and she's part of a show that's out of Toronto I just did.
Oh, sweet.
So I'd like to connect you, because there's an amazing set of people doing some stuff I just did with Hugh Riley and Lamont and Helen.
Wonderful. I was going to ask too if you can email me about your PMF thing, because it's so great that there's such a little device.
Yeah. We don't on the show, we talk about the frequency of 528 and energetics and resilience, but both Karen and I use a biofeedback system, and we just want to give you an English. This particular biofeedback system, we actually have all the teeth, the frequencies of all the teeth on here, so that we can do an analysis of someone and also find out like what might be going on. So we have one for infection clearing, and so we find out what might be going on within the mouth, within the teeth. And a lot of your information has given us new inspiration about looking for certain things and testing different frequencies that may have disrupted the person.
Oh, wow. That's neat. I wonder if, you could, if they know there's a tooth that's a root canal or been extracted.
Yeah, we have one exactly for that. We have a root canal harmonizing one that checks for the cavitations and
oh my God, that's great
as well. So it'd be fun to meet with you at a separate time and to do a scan and kind of look at some of these frequencies and get your perspective, because it gives people an understanding of what teeth might be infected, if they might have cavitations, what even sensitivities to different materials. So we test them on a regular basis and take a look
or
at
ones where they can just, like, in their care, focus on a little bit more, maybe work on that gum pocket or
that's exactly what it leads to. Yeah. And of course it gives coherent frequencies to also add to what they're doing from a lifestyle perspective.
Yeah. We all need more coherent frequencies.
It's nice when you see kind of the changes coming in. Dr. Ross Grant is out of Vancouver area, and in being with them, it was really nice too, because what they're doing is, doing like live blood cell analysis, but they do it with the saliva analysis right in front of you. So you can see the spirochetes. And then we were doing different things like UV lighting and doing like a volt, like similar to what we use with the Genius or whatever, but we were actually putting on where you were doing the volts and just seeing what the electrical charge was. So you could actually see where to go in, where to remove. And those are some of the very cool things I was looking at, in there, and using the ozonated therapies and ozonated creams and stuff. So it was something that I thought was really profound. And it was some of the inspiration, in reading your books and in watching you for years at Longevity now. And I'm going, I got to get her Avo or Robin. But, in some different things we were doing, I was doing projects with Avo and stuff. So just to see what would be happening. Now, can you expand a little bit too, just on what kind of those 8 steps are?
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. And specifically,
getting foundations.
Related to that's, it's so funny. You and I were definitely lining up on that, Karen. As exactly what my next question was. In your book, Holistic Dental Care, so you can find that maybe at livinglibations.com or on Amazon. And in that book, you have I think based on the information in there, you then say, well, what are the solutions? You have these 8 steps that people can do. So tell us a little bit about what led to the 8 steps, why those are foundational, important for people to take care of their teeth, which is incredibly related to the rest of their body. All of this connects to meridians within the rest of the body, and everything in your teeth that's going on with your teeth is going to reflect in some way to the rest of your total health, I would imagine.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I found that there was that sort of, again, there was a gap in that daily care of besides whatever we learn as kids, like there's your crest, there's your Listerine, which we know is not, it's not even neutral. It's going to be causing issues. So there was that. And then there's just also like, well, yeah, what do we do about, because a lot of people kind of avoid their mouths, or they'll just open it, sort of the once a year for the dentist and then not think about it. Or maybe
your toothbrushing is you're tired, you're exhausted, you're ready to put your head on that pillow. And so it's like, oh, now I'm going to do my dental routine when I'm exhausted. And so it's going to be 2 minutes before I'm out like a light. So I think
you've been brushing your teeth for 40 years and you're bored, or you're just like literally have that habit of like, of just like the same, and maybe it's not that good. And maybe we didn't know what to do with it anyway. So I just felt there was a huge need. And also like preparing for a dentist, or like how can we make that better, shorter, and not such a nightmare. So really over a few years, sort of taking all the things I was learning and then putting that into a daily practice to figure out like what, how do you kind of pull up your socks for your mouth? Like how do you get out of the current situation? Because really your mouth is alive, it is connected to the body, and it's a very quick metabolic system in there. Like it's not a thick skin. There's very fast healing, as you know, like the gums could bleed 1 minute and then they're kind of, a couple hours later, they can be sealed up again. So knowing all that, we want to be able to, just through that daily, like, like inching your way towards a better mouth, which is what it takes, right? Sort of like that, about 3 months, you can really turn it around. So that's what the steps came out of. And it's about really also thinking about the whole oral microbiome and having the, keeping the homeostasis of the oral oasis really balanced.
The homeostasis of the oral oasis. I like it. It's going to be a rap song.
Yeah. So, first with the mouth rinsing with just like salt water or a baking soda water, both are alkalizing, both are cleansing. With kids, that's, going to already take care of like half the stuff, because they're not going to brush properly, and really, even for adults, it's hard to get every single crevice every time.
A rinse like that is key. And I know, Listerine, some people don't maybe not know that anything with alcohol in it is going to disrupt the positive microbiome, which is why you wouldn't want to use something like that. And I think over time, there's also been, association with mouth cancers and things like that.
Oh yeah, like 30, back, like this is maybe 2012, because that was last time I looked at the stat. It was 36,000 cases in the US a year.
Wow.
Of mouth cancer from using
just so your regular not necessarily maybe that brand, but that whole genre of stuff. And it's a synthetic
alcohol and
and it's synthetic alcohol, right? Which
Can
is
you expand a little bit, Nadine, just on what you were saying. You were talking about like, seeing the right dentist and kind of getting that out or sourcing that out. Now, one of the things, and I'll just tell you an experience.
She's still going through the steps, but go. We can sort of loop all those things together.
Yeah, go here. What I just wanted to see if you could tie in with that, though, because as those steps, what I'm going to do is, there's a reason why I'm asking this now, is that in going to a dentist, which I did, let's say in Calgary, and I went to that dentist, it turns out that holistic dentist was actually injected. When I came away from that,
means the jab.
The one in Hannah.
No, what happened is I started vaginally bleeding and going into the contact vaccinosis because in contact. So I'm just going to see, I know those steps you're going through, but could we do something with that and add that? Because that's a thing. I've taken many, many clients that are almost bedridden now and paralyzed because of going into contact with that dentist. So can you add about like to those 8 steps and how we would modify that in these times now? because that just sent me for a loop, right?
Yeah, well, the 8 steps can really get you quite far and can turn the mouth around. And really, I mean, unless you have a dental emergency, you're probably pretty fine. I mean, unless you have like, and you're going to know your mouth more, you know what I mean? So you're going to be like, you'll really know if you have to go to the dentist, you know what I mean? Like I go maybe every 5 years because everything's
that's
fine.
a whole download in and of itself.
Yeah.
So kind of don't the idea, every screening, every medical screening is the opportunity to take a healthy person and turn them into a patient. Is that sort of along the lines why you only go every 5 years?
Well, yeah, and I really designed my life to like not have appointments. Like I'm just like I got to figure it out, right? So, and if you are taking care of your teeth that way, you'll know if you need to go to the dentist, and you'll know. Yeah, you just know. So
No,
anyway.
that's wonderful. Well, we got through the first step, which was
Yeah,
the
and also
rinse.
I wanted to say that the steps and the questions to ask a dentist are also available as articles on our website. So, don't worry about taking notes right now. And who knows, I
And
may
you go
even
to
forget a step.
livinglibations.com to see more. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're rinsing your mouth, and then you start with the brushing, and you can use just a manual brush, or we have these new, we call them velvet brushes. They have hundreds of tiny bristles. And so they do, it's kind of what I've always wanted in a brush head. It's very, it's fine. And it's really neat how it,
Oh, you have those, do you have those available on your website?
Yeah, we do, the velvet ones. And then I do also like an ionic brush, but we don't carry them anymore because they got like super expensive to import, and you can find them on eBay, but it's like with that, it ionizes and you just hold it under the light. And so that's also good for a manual toothbrush, like Dr. Tongues makes them.
Right.
So, and you're brushing you're gonna obviously hit your teeth, but you're really thinking about the gums at that point. So you're going right up into the cheek where the joint, and you're coming, and you're also brushing in one direction, which takes a moment because we've been going up and down our whole lives. But from the top, you're going down, 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 down. In the bottom, you're going up, up, up. That's for the gums and the teeth.
Be doing those motions because there's actually damage that can happen from brushing.
If your brush looks obviously your brush is going to look different 6 months down the road, but if it's like splayed bristles, and if the bristles are like any way changed, you're brushing way too hard. And also everybody, whether you're a fireman or a baby, you need the soft-headed, whatever you're brushing with, soft-headed or immediate.
Well, could everybody really use that soft-headed anyway? I mean, does anybody really need a tough?
No, we don't want tough. I don't. And so the part where the sulca, where the gum and teeth join, that union is so precious. Because if the gum recedes or gets damaged, and then it kind of starts to shrink back from the teeth. In my book, I talk about, having a turtleneck, so you don't want a cowl neck with those gums. And when that gum recedes, the bone that gets exposed is a different enamel, doesn't have the full same enamel situation.
Can people rebuild it? You only hear about gum recession. Can people actually rebuild it?
Yes, you can. You really can get your gum pockets up again.
And that's by doing your healthcare routine?
Yes, and we have the syringe for that, which is like, there's the 8 steps, and then kind of like a 9th one could be like the syringe. Sort of, there's a 8th step is sort of aftercare. Like, what else do you need to do? Do you need to rub a little more oil on that one tooth that's like got the gum receding? So if you've been told you've got
with the essential, it build up do the essential oils? Is that the main way you can build up your gums with some of your?
Well, yeah, with the brushing. So now you're no longer like sort of traumatizing the gum with the back and forth, and with the back and forth, you're kind of like thinking of sort of sweeping under the rug. You're putting debris under sort of the rug of your gum, especially if it's not tight around the tooth. If you want to get that back up, you want to think about bone health, because a shrinking tooth, shrinking bones, which is pretty much inevitable, especially for women as the estrogen wanes, you're going to have shrinking teeth.
Interesting. Bone loss. People never think about.
And that's,
don't give these companies a new drug idea. They're going to have a Fosamax for your teeth.
Oh my God. Well, people on Fosamax, I write about this in Renegade Beauty, dentists can't work on them. Their
because
teeth
they could
crumble.
have the necrosis. Yeah.
They're crumbling in their mouths. Because as you probably know, they thought it created bone density. I don't even know how it's still available. On the X-ray, the bones look more dense, but what it is, and I don't know the scientific term, but they're the dead bone cells, like stacked.
They're more brittle. Yeah, they're more brittle, and they're more likely to.
They're more dead. There's more dead bone cells in a medication.
It's one of the most ironic things about that medication.
How is it available? I don't know. And that information again is old.
Totally. Yeah. It's just bringing it out to people. And it's so sad because we know so many people, many of our parents, came to us and it's like, why my doctor is terrifying me. Like my doctor's a terrorist telling me I'm going to walk down that hall and my bones are just going to collapse unless I take the Fosamax. They really do. It's almost like today's modern day with the virus. It's like they terrorize those people to thinking that they need to do that to strengthen their bones, but they really need to be out in the sun where they can get their vitamin D.
Yes, it's true. Like, oh yeah, there's such a relationship with the sun and the bones. It's beautiful.
Nadine, have you ever I used a lot of this, not only for myself, but with clients now. It's actually making my own kind of a denti pack, which was simply taking a square organic, whatever sort of fabric, or using like the actual tea bag, removing what I didn't need out of there and putting in like baking soda and stevia or whatever else, the essential oils, coconut oil, and then rolling it up and then actually sticking it within the actual gum line, like, because it could be going day or night. So kind of like
that sounds great. Yeah,
like,
we have these silicone tooth trays right now. Right. So you can we have sort of things you put that, or you can put our toothpaste in there, or even our toothpaste diluted with a bit of water. And we have a toothpaste now we came out with last year. I was so excited because it's got oh my God, nanohydroxyapatite in it. So I forgot the name. And so it really helps to build bones and smooth out fissures. And it's great. There's only a few toothpaste on the planet with that, but of course it's with all the other stuff we don't want. So we're very happy to make our own version with that mineral because it's very, very remineralizing and helps to build it. So you can put that in the tooth tray and then just keep it, on, or make up or add baking soda even to that. And then we have that now. And then in about a month or so, we've been designing for a year infrared tooth light thing. So it's another tray, silicone, but it lights up. And then
I can see that on the website, the silicone tooth tray. That's a really cool. Actually, you can use that for your dental pack. One of the most controversial things still, I love to get into these sort of the weeds of it, is people who come to us and say, I have the best health toothpaste ever, and it has glycerin. Tell us about glycerin.
Yeah, well, it's a crazy thing because even in skincare, people, it seems semi-natural and it's not. I think it doesn't seem that bad. It's like a vegetable glycerite, but it coats the teeth invisibly, so it doesn't rinse away with water. So you've got this thin layer that's inhibiting the tooth respiration. And what we're saying about the lymphatic system with the tooth and stuff, it's literally impairing that system. Right. So it's not good. And on skincare, or like if you're using like a KY jelly, which is glycerin based, and I write about that in Renegade Beauty, it literally causes the vaginal cells inside to shrink and slough off more and be more susceptible to STD. And when they look at the vaginal cells under a microscope, they've let go of all their water. So it basically, KY jelly creates cellular raisins in the vagina.
It's unbelievable. It's so many things are just so out of sync with our natural biology. For those who are new to holistic dentistry, what are the important concepts? Like, people go for a cleaning. Is a cleaning a good thing to have from your dentist?
Well, again, you want to have a good dentist, from what kind of water are they even using to rinse? What are they using to clean your teeth with? So all these things are important, and they are in that article. We have questions to ask. Also, if you haven't had one for a while, there's I write about in the book Holistic Dental Care, but older people, they can die after dental cleaning within a week because so much is released from the biofilms and the stuff that goes into their bloodstream. So that's unbelievable. Most people are fine, but it's interesting that is that related to the heart issue, like an endocarditis, or just something in there, like sepsis in their blood? Yeah, I think, it's going to manifest differently for different people, but plaque, even in the mouth, is eventually going to build up in the bloodstream and that kind of thing. Dr. Frank Sinatra, that's his name, right? No, Dr. Steven.
I totally knew where you're going with that. Yeah.
He talked about flossing, adding 7 years to your life because you're removing that plaque. So it's really important. And what's super cool is that, so biofilms, obviously an issue, that's the really buildup of plaque. And that's where these, fight pathogens They kind of live inside the biofilms. They get all cozy in there.
Mhm.
And what's super cool about the things that we've made our dental serums with, because I was, obviously looking at ancient ways of oral care. And
Right.
so all the ingredients that have been used transhistorically and cross-culturally, like peppermint, clove, cinnamon, neem, frankincense, myrrh, mastic, rose, cardamom, all those exciting oils.
Excellent. Those are included in all your serums.
Yeah. And what we now know is that now we have the modern times explaining why they've been used for thousands of years. And it's because all the essential oils to varying degrees have this thing called QSI, which is they are quantum sensory inhibitors.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to bust through the biofilm and clean that up where an antibiotic can't. And here's the genius of it all. And even hydrogen peroxide works like this. They're able to, the essential oils can clean up the pathogens, tidy that up, while working with the beneficial bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they
there's that intelligence.
That's an amazing thing. That's interesting that it's ascribed to intelligence.
Well, it's I don't know. That's
natural.
that beautiful design of
The plant intelligence.
Plant and natural substances.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean they're all working out perfectly and harmoniously, but that's, where it's not this man-made indiscriminate assassin of an antibiotic, which is killing out everything. Now, obviously useful. There's a time and place for them, but this, we can't necessarily be using antibiotics or antibiotic mouthwashes to solve issues in the mouth that's probably going to cause further imbalance.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing that natural plants that can be antimicrobial will keep the other gut bacteria, will preserve the other gut bacteria. It's amazing. Like it's the healing, it's the healing power of nature that is so amazing. Just follow, the rhythms of nature, follow nature, and you find it. Your formulations are absolutely amazing. I encourage everybody to check out at livinglibations.com to check out what they have. And the biofilm, the classic place for the biofilm to understand the biofilm is on the tooth. So when you're the other, all of the pathogens are hiding underneath the biofilm. Is that right?
Yeah, or in it.
Yeah.
Like kind of like it was explained to me once, they're kind of like a whole hotel system or the whole city in a biofilm almost.
They're hidden from the immune system very, very well.
Yes, yeah, that's the biofilm protects them and kind of keeps them like stealth. And when normally the pathogens are just sort of on their own floating around the body, and then they use quorum sensing to gather and kind of group and then express their genes and get stronger. And the essential oils are there to inhibit that quorum sensing.
So would that be your top kind of biofilm busting? No, for the
I think so.
else. And what about like the water picks and stuff like that, or anything else you've got?
Yeah, all of those are useful. I like the
oils?
syringe because you can really, it's a blunt tip syringe. It's like got a little, and then you can get it right up into the gum line, and it's so portable. It's like, so simple to use. So I use that more, I find, than the flossing things, but all of that is good. And where you can really make those flossing things, water flossers, work better is with something like adding a pinch of baking soda, get that water alkaline. The mouth thrives with alkalinity. So if there is a lot going on, get a litmus paper and just test your saliva throughout the day. And if you've got an acidic mouth, you definitely need to switch gears that way, because an acidic mouth is just the beginning of trouble.
Is all your products like processed in where you are by?
Yeah, we have a beautiful facility that we burn. I'm burnt. We did have a fire. We're not burning it. So that luckily came out of that when it's won environmental awards in Canada, and it's lovely.
If
and we got to design it how we make the products, which is great because it's
oh gosh, it's you can trust that when you're looking at the production of Nadine's products, they're going to be among the best, because you could see how she thinks everything through so methodically. And then when people are suffering, like people on here that might have diabetes or might have fibromyalgia or things like that, how important is this to sort of recalibrate or recommit to the health of their mouth, to the rest of their whole body healing?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to say what's coming first, but for sure, going through those experiences is the mouth's going to need some extra help.
Right.
Now, however, some dental choices might be some of the root issues of what's going on.
Like you're saying, a root canal or something like that.
Yeah, like if you really have like something going on that you can't figure out, I mean, you got to look at if you have jaw cavitations. So those would be from things that have already been extracted. Root canal teeth, wisdom teeth, which 67% of them do not ever need to come out. That's another story. Have you had a root? Do you have a root canal? Have you had a root canal removed? Because the jaw cavitations can start. So anything that's been extracted, for some reason, it's just the way that they leave the periodontal ligament in whenever something's extracted. That's just the way it's taught at school. But now dentists in the know, like, your biological dentist, they know to remove the periodontal ligament. And it was explained to me that's kind of akin to like giving birth and then leaving the placenta in the mom. It's not going to be a good story. So then your gum grows over that whole story. And then decades later, pretty much 90% of the population do have decay under an extraction. And that does not show up in an x-ray. You have to have decay in your jaw. So cavitation is a jaw cavity, basically, like a cavity in the tooth, but in the jawbone. So until there's about 80% damage, it's not showing up on an x-ray. So your dentist, and obviously it has to be one that knows what a jaw cavitation is, they can check. They have ways, or if even the instrument just slips in, and they can feel it and it's mushy in there. And then, but the tooth's already gone, so it actually can be cleaned out. So they'll scrape the bone, scrape out the decay, and that creates the blood come to the area, and then a blood clot's formed, which is very key to healing the area. Like you usually can't move for an hour after you've had it done. And then they'll inject ozone. And then hopefully you got to be with a dentist that does have ozone, and then your own plasma. It's called
plasma. That instead of the bone graft, instead of a bone graft, they can use the PRP.
Oh, and the bone graft is a horror story too. Because
you're getting the vibrational frequency of
and the disease often
of dead bone. And yet when you talk to any dentist, you could go out randomly, that they'd be like, bone graft, what are you complaining about? It works perfectly. No issues at all. But you would disagree.
Yeah, I would disagree. And it doesn't really solve an issue, because often you have an issue down the road. Same with a gum graft. Have you solved why your gums are receding? Have you solved why your teeth are shrinking? So
going to the root cause rather than just removing the symptom.
Yeah, that's so important, right?
Well, do you recommend that people can look for qualified dentists that have gone through the certification of the IAOMT? Are they acceptable?
Yeah, generally, although I still feel like you want to ask those further questions, you know what I mean? But yeah, so people, I encourage anybody to send us an email, and we'll help out as much as we can. We have a list of some of the organizations that will start you with. I mean, sometimes we do know a dentist in an area, but very few.
They can ask the right questions. And some biological dentists are very knowledgeable and they're very reasonable, and some are maybe overcharging, or they don't know everything, so you just want to be able to screen them in an appropriate way.
Or maybe again, you may need antibiotics or whatever, and I'm not saying that, but if it's just standard, you just had a teeth, here's your, you want to see where do they, I don't know. So where do they compromise or not? And then figure out what's going to work for you. Now maybe if you need cleaning, you're like, I'll go here. But no, now I need the jaw cavitation cleanse. So I'm going to do maybe deeper. I'll go travel for that deeper work.
Yeah. You might need a different one.
So because my dentist is in Texas. And I don't mind, because I know too much to go to I
totally get it. I've thought about not moving from my current location because of my biological dentist.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because it's that important, and I know. Nadine, we could talk to you for the entire day about this topic, and I absolutely appreciate you so much. I hope that we could have the good fortune of having you come back sometime to continue to get into maybe the whole body, since we only talked about the teeth today. But I guess in closing, give us a little bit of a download just about the sun and why you're working on this book, so we can have it to look forward to.
Oh, I do feel like there's for some reason we're like, oh my God, the sun. And meanwhile, it really is allowing all of us to live on the planet. So I think there's as I wrote in my other book, I think the sun needs a new PR agency. And I guess I'm on that team.
For sure,
Team Sunshine. And I just feel like there it is. Read it all. And it's there for us. And we just want to know how to work with it. We want to know how to have that relationship.
Right.
It's just so deep. Like, I feel like I could write the thickest book on it, and how
that's what
much intersects.
download on vitamin D, just the vitamin D.
Well, and melatonin.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the whole process of melatonin and how that gets created, and how it's even useful in the day, and how our melatonin supply. Okay, for example, I find this so fascinating. We all know about the melatonin in the nighttime and the pineal gland and the release of it, and we're sleeping. That's only like 5% of the story. About 95% of your body's melatonin production happens in the daytime inside the mitochondria.
Wow.
Right? And and what's it doing in that mitochondria? It acts as the most powerful antioxidant in the body, more powerful than glutathione, vitamin C, or vitamin E. And it's there to act like a coolant for the process of the ATP production, which is the basic like energy conversion that's making
because that production is so oxidizing.
Exactly. And it's there to help that, because no matter how healthy you are, there's going to be basically excrement from that ATP conversion. So, and where does that melatonin, daytime melatonin, when and where does it get produced?
That was my next question.
Morning red light. Morning red light.
So either sun gazing or being in front of a red light.
Red light, or just like that one. You actually, it's fun because it does not like tanning, where you have to be like, I'm here for you, son. You can just be in it and walk in it and see. So you don't have to have that focus like thing that way. But also then there's also like, taking melatonin in the daytime. Because a lot of people, it doesn't work for me at night. I'm like, what was that? Like, I was never into melatonin because I had like 1 milligram once or something, and I had like the worst dreams. I woke up, I felt hungover in the morning, and that's about 30% of the population. They're not vibing with it. And then I started doing it in the day. It takes a bit, and you do feel a little bit nappy, but after about a month, you're like, I'm on a lot right now. Like, I just do it every day.
Tell us about that cycle. Tell us when you take it and
generally just take it in the morning. And there's just fun suppositories that are made by Mitozen. So it's a bit designer, but you can totally make your own. And it's so fun too for tanning. You literally, like, it harmonizes this. It's like an internal sun, not a block, but you generally don't get burnt when you're infused with melatonin and then you go in the sun.
Is this going to be also something with you with, let's say, solar gazing and stuff, when you talked about dawn and dusk rituals?
Well, then I feel like this is almost a bit separate than watching the sunrise and sunset and sun gazing, but this is just like being exposed to red light in the morning, which doesn't, again, you can go for that walk, or you can have a little red light moment, with a thing. There is a new, there's these blankets now instead of panels. And again, I'm not trying to sell anything here, but so I think that's just super cool. We got one of the blankets.
You're saying it's like a
way
red
more
light
fun than
blanket.
a panel. Yeah, we traveled with it. You can like do yoga on it. You can wrap yourself up in it, and it makes way more sense than the panels.
Okay, because it's more portable.
Well, yeah, and everything you can just wrap. I don't want to. Who wants to stand in front of a wall?
You're not going to do it for that long. So, and a red light blanket, is there a certain company or somebody who makes it?
Well, there's a company right now. Is the nice guy too? The Red Light. His podcast is like the Red Light podcast or something. Anyway,
okay, we'll check
Biolight. I think it's called
Biolight. Okay, yeah, we'll check that out.
Dr. Mike Bellis.
But you didn't tell us that you said you do to suppositories and Mitozen, I think is what
Mitozen. So that's
Dr.
John
times
Lawrence.
of the day.
What's that?
Sorry? Go ahead.
As long as I get the suppository in sort of before like 5,
okay,
it doesn't affect my sleep. But I do like to try and get it in the morning, because then if I'm going to have sunshine, then it's just like such a good combo. But it does take a while to get adjusted, but it's neat because it ends like you definitely. So don't, like when I was first doing it, I was like, oh, there's no way I can have this and work or do podcasts. But I'm fine now.
Totally fine. What dose is it?
Well, I'm doing a lot, and I'm doing like 200 to 400 sometimes.
No, it's really fascinating. We've heard of these people say that they do really super high doses. It's fascinating. There's a lot of studies that show that really high dose melatonin, but we consider that as naturopaths to be like 20,
Oh
milligrams,
yeah.
not
You know
like
what? I
a
sorry, I
200.
just noticed the time.
I know you
I
have
do
to
have
go.
to
We're going to
fly.
wrap up. But there's cancer studies associated
Oh
with
yeah,
melatonin.
it's
Yeah.
totally anti-cancer. All cancers grow at night when they don't have melatonin, like the soft tissue ones. So breast cancer, if you have lacking melatonin, those tumors will grow at night.
All right, Nadine Artemis, it has been incredible. We know you're on a time crunch. Thank you so much for all of your generosity of your time and information today. Go
Thank
to
you.
livinglibations.com and check out Nadine's information. Nadine, thank you and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
We'll be
Bye.
in
Thank
touch.
you. Bye-bye. Well, Karen, oh, we lost Karen too. All right. Well, I wanted to just thank Karen McDonald for being part of the podcast today. And I wanted to thank all of you for being part of the podcast. We'll be back next week and we'll sort of going to figure out what the timing is. We did have a great attendance today and we want to kind of figure out our ideal timing for live broadcasting. But for right now, we'll say it's at 6:30 p.m. Pacific next time. We have been live streaming to YouTube, so you can check out the replay on YouTube, and we're also going to post it to our Genius Biofeedback at rumble.com. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.